to order. Georgia, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Counselor Lewis?
Present.
Counselor Rosenthal?
Present.
Counselor Simpson?
Present.
Counselor Gonzalez?
Good morning. Present.
Counselor Wong?
Present.
Counselor Nolan?
Good morning.
And Council President Peterson.
Present. Thank you. All right. Double speak. Good morning. We will move on to public communication on non-agenda items. I want to thank everybody who is here to join us here in person and virtually to testify today. I believe that most of you, if not all of you, are here regarding the Integrated and Expanded Regional Supportive Housing Service Affordable Housing Program item, which is later on the agenda. So today we'll begin by opening up public communication for anyone wishing to speak on non-agenda items, and then we will have a dedicated time for public communication on the SHS affordable housing item after that, so after adoption of the consent agenda. George, will you please describe to the audience as I call into our public communication on non-agenda item? Will you please describe to the audience our procedures that we use for public communication portion of the meeting?
Yes. If anyone wishes to testify on non-agenda items, now is the time to do so. Public testimony will be limited to 3 minutes. I will manage a timer to go off at the 3-minute mark. If you have not already signed up to speak, you can do so now. If you are joining us on Zoom, you can sign up to testify by raising your hand on Zoom. Depending on your version of Zoom, the raise hand function has its own tab or is located within the reactions tab. Those calling in can raise their hands by dialing *9. If you are joining us in person, you can sign up by filling out one of the blue cards in the back of the room and bringing it up to me. For those joining us on Zoom, I will promote you to a full panelist when it is your turn to testify. I will call on your name or phone number when it is your turn to testify, and a window will appear asking you to accept being promoted to panelist. Once you click accept, your Zoom window will close for just a brief moment before you rejoin as a panelist, where you will be able to turn on your camera if you like. As a reminder, you do not need to give your physical address. However, please introduce yourself for the record before testifying. And again, this is for non-agenda items, so I will only be promoting up folks who are not testifying on SHS. And I do not see anyone who is testifying on non-agenda items in the audience.
So you have no blue cards and no one
Correct.
coming forward on non-agenda items. With that, we will close public communication on non-agenda items portion of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of 2 items, councilors. Resolution number 25-5447 for the purpose of authorizing the chief operating officer to grant a non-park use easement to Clackamas County at Pecan Creek Natural Area. And item 2, consideration of the January 9th, 2025 council meeting minutes. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
I'll move consent.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Lewis and seconded by Councilor Rosenthal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I
Yes.
just say one word?
Yes.
I'd like to thank council for support of 25-5447. It's a really important safety improvement project in my district that actually required a vote of the people in order to move forward with at the local level. So thank you for the ease of accommodation.
Hi, I'm Justin Dunlap, and I'm the department head stagehand electrician
That too.
at the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall.
We're having
Safety
our
is a
public
big
safety
part of my
announcement
job. From electrical.
Hey,
We did roll right over that, so if we want to go into it, we can right now.
I was just saying thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for the getting cut off.
okay. Would you like us to play?
Let's go ahead and do
Okay.
that.
If the folks in the back could please play the safety video, that would be wonderful.
I'm Mike Reese, and I'm the dive safety officer here at the Oregon Zoo. And safety is a big part of my job. Some of the things we consider here is diver safety. I'm out here at the Oregon Zoo, and you're at the Metro Regional Center. The council chamber is located on the 3rd floor of this building. In the event of fire or fire alarm, please exit through the door in the northeast corner of the room, go down the steps to the 2nd floor, and exit through the main entrance by the reception desk and gather in the courtyard outside the entrance. In the event of a medical or fire emergency, please call 911 and notify the security agent at the front desk. The nearest defibrillator is mounted on the steps leading from the reception desk down to Grand Avenue. Thank you.
And thank you for that. Just wanted to make sure everybody had the protocol for a safety event. All right, we will move into our work session on an integrated and expanded regional supportive housing service affordable housing program, proposed ordinances and proposed counselor amendments. Counselors, turning back to those who have joined us today, we will now hear public communications again on this agenda item. We will use the same procedures that Georgia described a moment ago. And Georgia, will you please begin calling up folks so that we can hear from them? Thanks.
Absolutely. The first person that is going to testify today is Laura Galino de Lovato. I'm going to promote you to a panelist now, and your time will begin when you start speaking.
Good morning, President Peterson and Metro Councilors. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you about the supportive housing service measure reforms. My name is Laura Galino de Lovato. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Executive Director of Northwest Pilot Project. We are a nonprofit organization that operates in Multnomah County and has been providing services to extremely low income older adults, people age 55 and over, who need housing or who are at risk of losing their housing. We've been doing this work for 55 years and know very well the challenges involved. We're recipient of supportive housing services funds through our contract with Multnomah County, and those funds have made an incredible impact. While we hear often that people in our communities are not seeing progress on ending homelessness, we know every day with every person that we house and every person that we prevent from eviction that we are making progress. And the SHS funds have been absolutely key and critical to that work. We also know that the problem is getting significantly bigger, with bigger challenges for very low income people being able to keep their housing. Of utmost importance to us and to many of our colleagues, and especially to the people we serve, is that this measure continues. So we are extremely supportive of the package of reforms, especially the piece that will extend the measure by an additional 20 years after 2030. But we're also very supportive of the reforms to governance, to consolidate the two committees and provide much better strategic KPIs, key performance indicators, much better oversight, and a collaborative way of managing how we get to those goals. We are also excited about the opportunity to weigh in on and participate as a member of this larger community on creating a regional vision. And lastly, we are very supportive of the consideration that you're making of moving the referral to the November ballot. That gives us an extended period of time to work out some of the details around what is a new tax plan that meets as many of our goals as possible, as well as allowing us to really be prepared to go on day one after the measure passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have John Isaacs. You can sit at any of the four testifying tables.
Good morning, President Peterson and councilors. For the record, my name is John Isaacs, and I am the Executive Vice President of Public Affairs for the Portland Metro Chamber. I prefer he, him pronouns, and I'm a resident of Southeast Portland. The Portland Metro Chamber is Greater Portland's Chamber of Commerce and represents the largest, most diverse network of businesses in the region. The Alliance advocates for businesses at all levels of government to support commerce, community health, and the region's overall prosperity. We represent over We represent more than 2,300 members from 27 counties, 13 states, all 3 metro counties, and virtually every industry sector. More than 80% of our members are small businesses. I'm going to be brief today. I just want to say that I'm really proud to be here representing the Chamber, now in a public coalition with our service providers here together. We've previously forwarded recommendations to you that we negotiated and agreed to with our service providers represented by Here Together. But now we're here today in an expanded coalition with our racial justice community represented by the Coalition of Communities of Color and affordable housing advocates and represented by the Welcome Home Coalition. We forwarded a letter to you all together yesterday. And as we communicated to you in the letter, the 4 of you who we view as the most critical external stakeholders to this really important discussion that you all have been leading, we're now committed to working together to bridge the gap that we highlighted in the letter to you. Okay, we didn't hide from our differences. We have to do a little more work to bridge that gap so that we can forward to you a holistic package that brings us, all 4 of us, together. And we've made that commitment to each other. We're excited about this breakthrough. But as we said in the letter, we're asking you for just a bit longer timeline to complete that work. That will result in what we believe will be a coalition that can win if a measure is referred in November. We don't believe, and we've had extensive discussions internally at the Chamber the last 2 weeks, that there is any real difference in sort of the political climate between May and November. And what's important to recognize now, and we've heard this in discussions with many of you, that we build the broadest coalition possible and we give the maximum opportunity to all parties who have been a part of this really important discussion about how we put the sustainable or the supportive homeless services program on a successful track. Give everyone who is kind of willing to get to yes the maximum opportunity to do that. And so that timeline will do that. We're confident we'll come out of that with a coalition that can win. And I just want to end by thanking you for your leadership. This is really, really hard work, but you don't get big things done without having very difficult conversations. And it takes real leadership to do it. And this whole council has shown really courageous leadership over the last year. And we're just asking for a little bit longer to get to the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Sahan McKelvey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is great to be here with all of you. Thank you, President Peterson and council members, for the opportunity to allow us to speak and for taking the time to listen. I think that is something that is important and appreciate that you all are doing that. And really appreciate that you all have been doing that for several months now regarding the potential reform of the SHS measure. And we'll echo some of the things that John just stated, as I am a part of the groups that are represented in this broader coalition that we are trying to work through to build a greater consensus among our entire community about how we want to move forward. I should pause and say, my name is Sahan McKelvey.
Thank you.
He, him pronouns, and I am the Director of Advocacy and Engagement at SEI Self Enhancement Inc., where we are a culturally specific organization serving the interests and hopes and dreams of the African American community in Multnomah County. And I'm here today as a representative of SEI, also as a representative of the Welcome Home Coalition, where I'm a steering committee member, a representative of Here Together, where I'm an advisory board member, and as an executive at SEI, also a member of the Coalition of Communities of Color. And I've been involved in conversations for the past several months with the chamber, with the Portland Metro Chamber as well, to get to a place of unified agreement on how we can move this measure forward. And right now, I am in support of being able to not pause, but give ourselves a little bit more time to continue to move forward with the level of urgency that will get us to a place where we all believe in a unified way that we have this measure right, that we can move forward with something that we are all confident in, that we all agree upon. And I've been asked before. I think Councilor Gonzalez asked me last week, or maybe it was Councilor Wong, I don't remember. One of them asked me last week, what do you think is the best timeline to put this forward? And my response has always been, as soon as we can, but as soon as we can get it right. And I think that we could potentially put something forward in May, but I think that moving to November gives us an opportunity to ensure that we get all of the details that we need to be able to have correct. And I think that the most important component of this request and the most important component of the work that we need to do to get there is bringing our entire community together. And we have an opportunity to do that. This measure was initially crafted, and we want to continue to craft it in a way that includes multiple stakeholders, multiple community members, multiple jurisdictions. And we're not going to be able to optimize the impact of what we do if we are struggling to do that in a unified way. So I'll just close by saying, we've all heard the quote that if we want to go fast, we can go alone. If we want to go far, we can go together. And I think that we can take this measure very, very, very far by going together. And appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Jenna Golden. I'm going to promote you to a panelist now. Your time will begin when you start speaking.
Hello. Okay. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Jenna Golden. My pronouns are she, they. I've been a housed Portland resident for almost 25 years. I'm also an accountant, small business owner, and deeply involved in mutual aid efforts centering housing unstable Portlanders. As a tax preparer, I assist a number of clients in filing the SHS tax. And in my experience, my clients who pay it are not only happy to do so, but none have expressed financial hardship due to the tax. For example, in 2023, one of my married clients' total income was $422,000. Their SHS tax was calculated on about $208,000 of their income after exemptions, and they paid about $2,089, effectively 0.49% of their total income. As a community member involved in mutual aid, I've assisted several folks in actually getting housed. Many housed Portlanders believe that once someone gets inside, things should get easier. And yes, having running water, a bathroom, a door, heat, etc., does make life a lot more comfortable. However, once someone gets a place to live, a whole new struggle starts, which is staying inside. And this can be a huge change for someone who has lived outside to adjust mentally and emotionally. And it's also a huge struggle financially. And for example, one of the folks I've known since 2020 got housing in May 2024. And before that, he was in shelter for 2 years. And before that, he was unsheltered for over 10 years. And his path to shelter was due to a tragic accident where he and his partner were hit by a car. She passed away and he was very badly injured. He was released from the hospital in the winter of 2021 with no place to go, no money, and was in a wheelchair with the use of one arm. We scrambled to get him into a hotel and advocated to get him into shelter. And 2 years later, he was able to get assistance to get housing. But the program was set to expire, so he only got rental assistance for 1 month. And what that looks like in money is that he receives $943 a month of disability, and his rent is $680 a month, which means he's paying over 70% of his income in rent. And because of this, he hasn't been able to keep up with his payments, and he was on the eviction list for the building. He was able to get caught up through a one-time assistance through Urban League. And at the same time, I had been advocating for him to get long-term rental assistance, and finally Do Good Multnomah delivered. Also, thanks to Northwest Pilot, we've used their support a lot. He has now been admitted to the RAP program for rapid rehousing and retention support. And this makes him eligible for up to 24 months of rental assistance, case management, utility support, food, clothes, mental health support. It's amazing. And this is funded in part with SHS dollars. So now his rent is 35% of his monthly income, which is a huge success and has monumentally changed his life. So as you consider moving forward to strengthen and extend this life-saving resource, please remember that many taxpayers are happy to pay it, who want to see it used for their unhoused neighbors' support. Remember to center the voices of the people closest to the issue, and remember that getting a person housed doesn't stop once they move in. This tax helps keep people inside. And I really echo what folks are saying about taking time. If coalition building is happening and cohesion amongst different parties in the city, give it the time it needs, because people are utilizing this resource and things just take a long time to do. But I've seen the change it makes in people's lives. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Matt King.
Good morning. I'm going to read the statement. My name is Matt King. I'm a longtime resident of Portland, and my family and I are fortunate enough to earn enough money to pay the supportive housing services tax. I'm a small business owner, a property owner. I have 2 kids, and we pay a lot of taxes each year. The supporting housing services tax represents a very small portion of the total amount we pay. Despite the taxes that we pay annually, we're able to donate money regularly, go on extended vacations multiple times a year. We pay for healthcare out of pocket, which is not cheap for a family of 4. I shop at New Seasons. I know that the price of goods has increased over time and that every bag of groceries seems to cost $70 no matter what's in it. And I understand that life is expensive and feels like it's only getting more expensive. That said, voting to reduce or alter this tax to be less effective cannot be a referendum on the increased cost of living or taxes as a whole. I believe that as a functioning society, we rely on taxes to prosper collectively. I'm here to express my strong support for the 1% marginal tax on high-income earners like myself to fund housing and homeless services. I strongly believe that any reduction in the amount of funding or shortened duration to the tax would be a massive misstep. I believe that those closest to the issue should be listened to in any restructuring of the measure to improve its efficiency and effectiveness. I also want to emphasize the importance of solidarity among progressive regions with renewed federal threats certain to come from the Trump administration. I want results, I want people to be housed, and I know that cutting funding to essential programs is not a way to those results. I feel like I try to choose to put the social good ahead of a few $100 extra a month, which is essentially what this equates to, and I would implore that we continue to do that as well. So thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Amanda Saul. I'm going to promote you to a panelist, and your time will begin when you start speaking.
Good morning, councilors. Thank you, Council President Peterson and members of the council for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Amanda Saul, and I am the Assistant Director of Development at Home Forward, and we are an active member of the Welcome Home Coalition. Home Forward is the public housing authority for Multnomah County. We own over 7,200 affordable homes, including over 440 units of permanent supportive housing for chronically homeless individuals and families. We also administer rent assistance to over 10,000 households each month through local, state, and federal rent assistance programs. Home Forward has a unique relationship with the SHS measure as a jurisdictional partner. We contributed 440 federal project-based Section 8 vouchers to be coupled with SHS service dollars to create new PSH homes in our community. In addition, we administer the SHS Regional Long-Term Rent Assistance on behalf of Multnomah County. I'm here to testify in strong support of the extension and the expansion of the SHS measure on behalf of Welcome Home. The Council's contemplated action is critical to the effectiveness of our community's response to homelessness. The first aspect I would like to highlight is the extension of the measure through 2050. Currently, through SHS funding, Home Forward is providing supportive services at 130 PSH homes. As a result of these SHS dollars, we see increased housing stability through lower rates of non-payment of rent and other lease violations, as well as improved well-being for our residents. In addition, as a housing developer, it is necessary to be able to show anticipated SHS funding for at least 20 years to obtain loans to finance projects, thereby reducing scarce public resources. Failing to extend the SHS measure would result in dire consequences for the residents we house and the larger community. The second aspect I'd like to highlight is expansion of the measure to fund affordable housing. In recent years, we have seen the overperformance of both the City of Portland and Metro affordable housing bonds. As a result, these local bonds, Home Forward has been able to bring over 1,000 new affordable homes into our community. With both bonds fully allocated, we are facing a lack of local funding necessary to continue housing production to meet the demand. By expanding the permissible use of SHS dollars to include funding for affordable housing development, we can create more affordable housing faster and less expensively. As an example, in December, Home Forward purchased a new 47-unit market rate project, the Caesar, located at Hawthorne and Southeast 39th, which will provide housing for chronically homeless people. We're using SHS funds for services and Metro bond funds for acquisition. With more flexibility in SHS funding, we can acquire more housing quickly and keep it affordable for generations. Thank you to the Council and Metro staff for the thoughtful and diligent work on the future of the SHS measure. We are supportive of the letter submitted yesterday by the Welcome Home Coalition and the broader coalition, and are testifying today to highlight the importance of getting the renewal and the extension right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Rachel Atchison.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Rachel Atchison. I'm a resident of the city of Portland. I pay the SHS tax, and I'm an advocate for the continuance of that tax at the 1% rate and for the elimination of its expiration date currently scheduled for 2030, so that tax is extended. As a member of this community, I recognize that we still woefully lack affordable housing, evidenced by our unhoused population, which poses a crisis. I want to speak directly to you all as a member of the community that is subject to this tax. I want this tax to continue without a scheduled expiration in 2030. I want to continue to pay it. I recognize that the proceeds from this tax may be better spent, perhaps more effectively or efficiently. I have 3 points to make, 2 on effectiveness and 1 on efficiency. On effectiveness, in addition to purchasing facilities for short-term needs, we should consider targeting the purchase of long-term housing by governmental agencies or community benefit organizations to provide sustained affordable housing. Perhaps lenders would be more attracted to partially funding such acquisitions, knowing that the SHS tax will continue to subsidize such acquisitions without an express sunset. Second point on effectiveness. I assert that we can better attract and retain quality service providers if we pay those working to end homelessness a fair and livable wage without an expiration date on their pay, so that they may make a career out of such commendable services. Finally, point on efficiency. We should work towards coordinating efforts among the tri-counties to reduce redundancies and share solutions. Having regional standards should be part of our process. Finally, I support Welcome Home, a coalition of communities of color, Here Together, and Portland Metro Chamber in creating a broader coalition to prepare a new proposal related to SHS. Thank you. I look forward to your careful consideration of this important matter.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Brittany McGurk.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Brittany McGurk, and I'm the Shelter Program Manager for Family Promise of Tualatin Valley. Council President and members of Council, Family Promise of Tualatin Valley is a nonprofit whose mission is to equip vulnerable families and individuals to end the cycle of homelessness through a community-based response. Our Bridge to Home shelter houses up to 70 households at a time in a non-congregate setting where individual households each receive their own private room. We serve families specifically with minor children, many of whom were involuntarily doubled up, living outside, or staying in vehicles prior to their entry into shelter. As part of our shelter program, each household is matched with an individual case manager to support their shelter stay and basic needs. Our setting allows households to stabilize while creating space and support for families to focus on their housing and employment-related goals. Through a weekly food pantry, robust meal program, clothing closet, and specialized resources brought on site, immediate needs are met. Many families also find community in our environment, often forming connections that go beyond shelter and continue to benefit households as they move into housing. Regular enrichment activities, including after-school tutoring, movie nights, trivia, arts and crafts, and story time ensure a sense of normalcy for children and contribute to well-being in what is often a traumatic and stressful time. Family Promise is not just a shelter. We provide housing navigation and referral services and meet every family where they are at. Our team of experienced staff partner with families to work towards a sustainable, stable path towards housing. This process may include assistance on obtaining vital documents, budgeting, life skills, apartment hunting, and more. Last year, our organization served 1,294 individuals through our programs as a whole, and specifically 458 people, 458 people in the shelter, and 220 of them being children. FPTV urges Metro to take the time to understand essential services and work with those service providers to establish that baseline before moving forward with changes. This important work benefits our community, and vulnerable children and families are counting on our support. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Tony Bernal. And I do not see Tony in the attendees list on Zoom, but if you are there under a different name, if you could just raise your hand on Zoom, that way I can find you and promote you up. Okay. Not seeing Tony, I'm going to call up the next person, and Tony will have another chance at the end. The next person to testify is Angela Martin.
Good morning. Good cold morning. Angela Martin. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm here today as the executive director of the Here Together Coalition. I'm here to amplify the message that was sent to you in the letter yesterday and shared by the organizations and coalitions you've already heard from. Metro's leadership in guiding this process in fostering is helping us all foster a deeper understanding of the challenges that we face, the opportunities before us, and the urgency of getting this right. It was actually during a meeting yesterday with Councilmember Lewis that I was reminded just how critical it is that we all work towards a swift resolution. The CEO of Transition Projects, Tony Bernal, who is not going to be here today, underscored what he is experiencing every single day. He explained that their ability to serve more people has grown significantly thanks to supportive housing services. Every single night, they provide shelter to 700 individuals, and throughout the course of a year, housing and supportive services to 1,000 households. This work begins with outreach teams bringing people in from the shelters or from the streets, and continues with those case managers and housing navigators helping individuals transition into long-term stability. The remarkable growth in their programming is, again, thanks to SHS, which accounts for 40% of their operating budget. The end of this program, or the prospect of it, would require them to replace $16 million in funding. And that absolutely cannot happen overnight. Without an extended timeline for this program, they will face the difficult task of dismantling programs and serving far fewer people. Like many of the other providers, they understand that the waiting list for housing not supported by SHS is 3 to 5 years long. So they will need to start putting their clients onto those lists today if they have any hope of transitioning without sacrificing people. That is why we remain committed to bringing the remaining differences in the stakeholder proposal to the table together so that we can find some common ground. We recognize there is a lot of shared agreement around governance, around the need to extend. And there's remaining work to be done on how we do this in a way to maximize the most amount of resources while also balancing public and taxpayer support for this program. By extending the timeline for us to do this work and go back to the voters in the fall, you're giving us the opportunity to finalize a reform package that will both be impactful and enduring. It can't be underscored how much I appreciate the hard work and heavy lift each of you are doing to give the space for us all to get this right. And so with that, I just simply say thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Council President Peterson, I do not see anyone else in the audience with their hands up on Zoom, or and I have no more blue cards up here.
Seeing no one. Oh, we've got one more. If you'd like to come forward, go ahead and give your name and general area. You don't have to give your address of where you live, but
My name's Christina.
wait until you get to the microphone so we can get it on the record. Thanks.
My name's Christina Elmore. I live in Piedmont.
Thank you.
And I thought I followed the process to email you. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Thanks for having me. Like I said, my name's Christina Elmore. I use she, her pronouns. I've lived in the Piedmont neighborhood for over 10 years, and I'm here to testify about the importance of the funding for affordable and supportive housing. I pay the tax happily, with gratitude for the choice that our community made to support that. The tax, what it enables, is really direct to my community. I've been doing mutual aid in my neighborhood since 2019, mostly for unhoused and housing insecure folks, many of whom live within like a half mile of my house. These are my neighbors, and this is my community. I specialize in administrative stuff. I sometimes call it administrative crap, like birth certificates and IDs and benefits applications and housing applications. So I've been in the weeds of the housing shortage, sitting at the library, filling out every waitlist we can find, partnering with Portland Street Medicine and Old Town Clinic to get disability documentation, putting my phone number down for tiny home village applications. And of the hundreds of people I've known who need housing, I currently know 11 who are in housing. And we have celebrated those wins. It often feels like sheer luck. I think that's the challenge. So, because the people know that there are so many friends, 15, 20, 30 friends that they have who've done the exact same things who haven't been able to get into housing. So I remember celebrating with my friend Kina. This was the first housing that we'd gotten in a Little Caesars parking lot off Lombard. And I did something that you could maybe call resembled a dance, but it concerned so many people. A customer came out of the Little Caesars, set their pizza boxes on top of the car, and asked me if I needed medical attention. So I'm not a great dancer, but I know how to get your birth certificate. So Kelly got into housing and now has a voucher funded by this tax. So the sadness that comes with those celebrations is the rough part, right? Because again, we know there are so many people who have done the same things who haven't been able to get that. So these are my neighbors. I pay this tax. I want it retained. This is my community. It's not just a community I serve. It's a community that takes care of me, that provides mutual support. So the amount of money that we have for this has a direct impact on the people that I know and my community and my friends. So I'm here to encourage you all, to what many other people have said, to look to what the Welcome Home Coalition, the Coalition of Communities of Color, the Portland Metro Chamber, and Here Together are proposing, and to honor what our community chose, which is to make possible these funds to make sure that unhoused folks can get into housing, and then to keep it. So thank you, President Peterson, for inviting us to participate and for listening to my testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, not seeing anyone else testifying on Zoom or in person.
Okay, well, thank you. We will close that portion of the work session on testimony regarding SHS. And counselors, as we walk through this, I just want to kind of do a quick summary of where we're at and then do a round robin of maybe what we've heard from other groups, if that's okay. Okay, seeing nodding heads. I just want to say thank you to everybody who came to testify and everybody who attended virtually. There are a lot of folks that have dedicated their lives, their time, both in and out of work time, to be able to help people move off the streets and keep people from going on the streets. And I just want to say, we all see you. We all hear you, and we recognize and celebrate that. And I think that this measure is one of those celebrations of some of the successes that we've had. Moving forward, we need to have more because this problem grew during COVID, and folks are expecting us to be able to do more, right? So I think that I also want to thank the counselors. There have been very productive conversations around not just the content, but how to support the growing coalition and make sure that we have the support necessary to move this forward. We are obviously very close to a policy package, including a measure that does what you and a wide range of partners, providers, community, and business leaders have said needs to happen to secure the long range stability, predictability, flexibility, and accountability for this work. As I reviewed last week, we have listened and evolved this package based on what we have heard, allowing more time for key details to be worked out as we transition to an improved and integrated structure, while maintaining our bottom lines to make this program more effective, efficient, and intentional about what we aim to achieve for the region. The strength of this program is also one of its biggest challenges. It requires coordination and consensus from a broad variety of governments, service providers, and other stakeholders in order to be successful. As we've said many, many times, many of the programs that have been initiated around the nation have been with one county and one large city. This is 3 large counties and 24 cities, making it that much more complex, but that much more important. Because we do want to be a region that solves problems together and with collaboration. We have taken great strides over the course of this past year to come together and have difficult conversations. It's been challenging, to say the least, but we're grateful to our partners for staying at the table and engaging in good faith. We now find ourselves at a moment today to recognize and address these complexities by broadening and strengthening the coalition of support. So I do propose that we shift our efforts slightly. We need to maintain the urgency, the collaboration, and the preparation for a transition to the integrated SHS and housing program. But I also propose we acknowledge the request of our coalition leaders and shift our thinking of when to put before the voters this measure and make it the November 2025 election. And looking down at my colleagues, I'm seeing nodding heads that is indeed a direction that we want to go. So I just want to also echo what we heard, and that this is not an excuse to let up the pedal off the metal. We need to continue this work because there's even more that's possible with this timeline. I think whether a vote is in May or November, we need to continue a strong pace of getting ready for what needs to get done. So if we wait until a springtime ballot measure referral for November election, I propose we move quickly to create a new work group to focus on key elements of transition so we're ready to hit the ground running after voters consider this measure. This would basically be the action plan for the work that we already agreed that we were going to do as a council in the transition. I don't care what we call it, but right now we'll just call it the President's Work Group. And I believe that this work group would be mirroring what we would expect out of an H2PAC so that we can start learning how to work together at that level, at that regional collaboration level. Might have more people on it than even an H2PAC so that we make sure that everybody is included in this part of the conversation, but we would work on the key elements of the proposed new program. Including establishing a recommendation for the council on a shared regional North Star and key performance indicators, a resolution of our long overdue agreement on data sharing between the county providers and Metro, and make sure that we are publicly vetting the conversations around tax proposals and the extension. I do think this work group would need to conduct its conversations in public and include representatives of our county and city partners, providers, and coalition leaders, as well as business interests. This is a new idea, and I am responding in real time, so some of you have not heard this idea, but I think it's going to be necessary to move us forward in a timely manner and keep the momentum going. So I propose the council hold a work session on this topic in 2 weeks and that this work group begin in February. At that work session, we can also discuss an amended timeline on consideration of the ballot measure and the companion ordinances and referral for the spring of a broadly supported measure to the November 2025 ballot. That said, several of you have proposed some amendments and or conceptual changes to the ordinance we discussed that last week, and I do want to thank you for getting the homework done on time based on what we knew last week. It was a timeline that we needed to keep moving on. And I know that there was a lot to review and consider on that tight timeline. I want to have the opportunity to air the major themes and questions I saw in the changes and the amendments counselors have proposed since last week. And we'll get to that in a second. But first, counselors, do you have any comments on the amended timeline and what work you think should keep moving forward even with a later referral and election? Councilor Lewis.
Sure. Thank you, Council President. I agree with much of your notes and assessment of what we've heard and what we continue to hear. Based on testimony this morning, what I hear in community, and what I expect to hear in the next few weeks. Like I meet with Clackamas County Business Alliance next Thursday, so I'm not kind of done with my round robin. I haven't been to all my cities. I've been to some of my cities. But I'm continuing to have my ears open, continuing to talk with folks. I think that we need to look at November as the point at which we work with the public for those pieces. But there are some changes that we can start right now. The fact that we have many of the recommendations from last year's recommendations from the Oversight Committee that are still highlighted in red and yellow and not done. We need to not only make those reforms, but we need to better equip ourselves to be responsive to this year's oversight report. So if that is something that this President's Work Group can do, and it sounds like it is, I'm in full support. Also, when we crafted this measure, we said we need to help the most vulnerable people. We think we're going to raise about $250 million a year, and we think we can house about 10,000 people. And those were kind of the numbers. And the world is so different than that, that sooner than later, we need to come up with what the real numbers are and actually back them up with what it will look and feel like walking down the street, driving down the road, looking out our window, talking with people who are still under tarps in our neighborhoods. And both things need to be, the dial needs to be moved in both real numbers and metrics and in the sidewalk or windshield test.
Awesome, thank you. A good amendment to my proposal. I would just ask that we, slightly friendly amendment, create a work plan for what can be done now and what can be done by H2PAC after it's formed, and try and check off the things we can do now and get the checklist moving, make it an action item type of thing. So, okay, awesome. Thank you. Councilor Nolan.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank everyone who took time not only to be here today, but to sit in all the meetings and all the texts and email exchanges that led to the communication we received yesterday from the coalition about your commitment to making this work and your commitment to making it broadly based community action. I want to join Councilor Lewis in agreeing that some kind of work group is important. I want to underscore, though, as you alluded to, Madam President, that there is nothing preventing us from now doing the things that the public expects us to do. That we have tried for 4 years to establish a regional database of individuals and the complexity and array of their needs so that the counties and nonprofit providers can scale their operations to the people who need help, not just overall, but in specific parts of the region. If we can't get that done before this is on the ballot in November, we will reinforce the public's, unfortunately, growing belief that this government and our county partners can't deliver. It's critical that we demonstrate in tangible, visible, humanitarian ways that we can disrupt the way we approach these needs with new tactics, new programs, because the ones we've been using aren't working. Yes, there's a national issue and it's very real now given the new administration. But if we're going to ask the voters, on behalf of the voters that I represent, to extend this for 20 years, and I can understand the argument for that, we have to show them that we can, in fact, end our homelessness crisis. At least get to such a small amount that every night we can take care of the people who are sleeping outdoors. That I would suggest, and I think you're saying that, but I'd like confirmation that we will commit to giving people account of the need before they vote and demonstrate that we've made progress toward reducing that net.
So I think we'll see how far we can get. Again, we can because we have not had a data sharing agreement, and I think we need to move towards that first. We also need to give that North Star and key performance indicators. I think all of that combined, if we can get as far as being able to say that the counties are providing that information before the end of November of this year, I think that would be awesome. To be able to give a baseline as well as some projections of what can and cannot be accomplished towards those key performance metrics, so that we are realistic but also having stretch goals. I think that would be amazing. So I think the first step is a briefing on where we are with the data sharing agreement to that entire group, and obviously with the right, I'm looking at our attorney, with the right notice. I think all counselors would like to attend and probably hear the briefing on where we are with the data sharing agreement, whether they're at the table or not. But I think that would be helpful. I think that's the first thing that we all ache for is a briefing on the data sharing agreement. So yes, Councilor Lewis, do you have a follow-up?
I mean, more than a briefing, I just want it done.
Right.
I don't want to slow this down to learn more.
So before
we have been
Yes.
driving reasonableness here.
Yes.
And from what I understand, it is an expectation about how long it is that we wait once we put together a report to actually release it. Is it 3 days? Is it 10 days? Is it 12 days? I don't care. Any of the 3 counties can sign it. They don't have to wait for the other 2.
I totally agree. We have new electeds in the region who would like to have the opportunity to be briefed, and those folks would be at the table. So I think that having a briefing and getting everybody on the same page, whether one commission decides to go ahead and sign, right, and start this process, I think that would be great. Anyway, I think that's we will get it done as quickly as we can, and that is my commitment to you. I agree. I am also done with this, but there has been requests from several new elected members that they would like a briefing before signing. They are also wanting to get it done as quickly as possible, but we have one step that we need to do because it has not been publicly aired in any space. So I think getting it publicly aired is probably the key step there. Yeah, Councilor Simpson.
Thank you, Madam President. Look, if I was here before, I would have told you we don't get any funding until a data sharing agreement is signed. That's where I would have started. So I hope that's heard loud and clear.
Yeah.
But I am in full support in moving forward in November to allow our coalitions. Thank y'all for coming to the table and trying to hash something out. That's really, really the piece of this is collaboration. What I will ask is, as we think about work planning this, what's our comm strategy as we, pre-referral? I know post-referral, it gets a little murky, but pre-referral, how do we incorporate some of this good messaging, especially the work that's happening with our coalitions and business community around this, so that we can get more public buy-in? Because right now, I don't think the polling is in our favor. So,
thank you. Yes, that can be part of the work plan.
Thank you.
Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support the creation of a work group. I think it is necessary. I really appreciate it. I want to thank all the service providers that have been working very diligently throughout the last couple of years to make sure these funds both affect people as well as affect the region. I think they've been probably more successful than I expected because they've been working very hard. That doesn't mean there aren't issues and there aren't things to be corrected. Even in some of the cities that I represent that have, shall we say, a lower level of problem, there is a realization, a general realization that these monies are going to good purpose and they are affecting the problem in a positive way. And everybody realizes also that the problem will not be solved by 2030. So there is a strong realization that it's going to have to be extended. As for data sharing agreement, I too am impatient to see a data sharing agreement. However, I would note, and I was involved in the data sharing agreements years ago not the DEQ as well as the EPA. They are not as simple as it just sounds. It involves definitions, it involves identification of precision of the data, it involves a whole bunch of things, and everybody comes at it slightly differently. So, although I am impatient, I've been reminded by one of our service providers in Washington County that this is not a trivial pursuit. This is something that's going to take a little time, and the sooner we get it, the better. But I think we will get there fairly soon, and that makes me hopeful. And then I just want to finally say just a comment. I remember when I was building my house, the contractor told me, he said, it's not going to be cheap, but you get to choose whether it's quick or whether it's good. So I hope we choose good.
Thank you. Councilor Nolan, a follow-up?
We've spent 4 years on it. That's the amount of time that we've already invested. We should be ready. And if the counties are not with us, then they can remove themselves from the program. This is a regional program adopted by the voters around the region. They're expecting results on not just a shared database, but on shared results. We promised the voters, or the voters directed us, actually, is the way it worked, that we would focus this program on chronically homeless people. 75% of the revenue would be spent on that. We don't even know who the chronically homeless are or what portion of the homeless population they represent, let alone do we know what percent of revenues we are passing through to counties they're spending on that population. That's an unforgivable failure on our part to meet our voters' directions. And we have to fix it. We know how to. It's hard. As one of our testifiers this morning said, you have to make hard decisions in order to move forward together. It's our time to lead on that.
Agreed. Okay. Anybody else before we move on to what I've heard from the counselors on amendments and what we've heard from our conversations? I'm sorry, I don't see your hand raised. Counselor Wong.
Yes. Thank you, Madam President. So, Councilor Gonzalez and I have been able to co-host a number of convenings over the last couple of months, one in December and one just last week, with many of our culturally specific providers. And we've also had a constant stream of meetings and phone calls. And, I think for us, it's really critical that we hear those voices and live up to our, racial equity framework. And I want to thank Councilor Gonzalez for all the leadership, all the time you spent, and also to our staff. They worked right before the holidays and put together these meetings, pretty much, on the spot. So thank you to our staff as well. I think I can distill down kind of the conversations to three main points. The first thing that we heard loud and clear was that we need to center the community and ensure that those that are doing the work on the ground, on the front lines, have a big say. I was just struck by how much community wanted to work with us to find efficiencies and create that shared ownership across the whole system. And many of the partners that we spoke to, they work across multiple counties, and have to comply with all these different reporting systems and administrative regulations. So hearing loud and clear that having that regional system that streamlines administration and reporting and centers the community voice is really important. Secondly, we heard that setting goals and creating that North Star before going back to the voters is critical. I think as we've been hearing, what is it that we hope to accomplish, and the sense that we got, and I agree with, is that the providers know what works and what doesn't work, and what happens is oftentimes politics or the silos that we create get in the way of work that is effective. So we need to work together as a region over the coming months to create those regional metrics. And if we can do that this summer, I think we have a really compelling case to bring back to the public. Thirdly, we talked a lot about resources and the need for predictability over time and also urgency. So I think folks universally wanted to see an extension as soon as possible, knowing that we need to create kind of that framework that works for everyone. So that would create long-term stability and predictability. And we're entering a time in the next year or two where without an extension, we're actually going to begin the process of winding down this program. And I think the providers that we work with that are on the ground, they'd rather be doing the work of supporting folks rather than thinking about what it means to close down programs. In my previous role before I got to Metro, I was also a nonprofit executive. And I think folks might have nightmares about like missing an exam or not turning your homework. But when you're a nonprofit executive, you have nightmares about closing down programs, laying down staff, or laying off staff, and what that means for the community that you're trying to serve. So I think what we all need to create is a system that can offer long-term support, that can streamline administration and reporting, and really allow for the creativity and innovation that our providers have to do the work most effectively. So, Madam President, I agree with you. I think we do need that work group. Do think we need those data agreements signed, and we need to continue to bring in our coalition partners into the decision-making table. We have 4 amazing coalitions. I want to thank Molly and John and Angela. You all are doing the hard work of bring people together and kind of finding that place in the Venn diagram where we can create that framework that works for everyone. That spirit gives me hope that we can accomplish big things.
Awesome. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Gonzalez.
Yeah, thanks, President Peterson, for the opportunity to kind of wrap up here. As I find myself saying a lot these last 2 months, last few years, to be frank, I agree with what Counselor Wong said. And I just want to recognize the tremendous leadership that folks on this council, but also in the community, have deployed to have Metro, Multnomah County, Washington County, Clackamas County, our cities, our business community to work harder and do better to address the most pressing issue of our generation. And so, I appreciate that Councillor Wong referenced some, but I want to reference a lot others of folks that have come to the table to really help solve problems. And, just want to name some folks: Molly Hogan, Sahan McKelvey, Josue Peña, Jenny Lee, Mercedes Elizalde, Jennifer Parrish Taylor, Katrina Holland, Vicente Vidal, Rigoberto Lopez, Dr. Ernesto Fonseca, Nathan Teskey. There's so many people that have come to the table and to help this regional program make changes where it's important. And I want to thank those leaders from the bottom of my heart for pushing us to continue to do the work that we need and to ensure that we're doing the work. One of the themes that has really landed with me over these last few months, and obviously we have a new administration in the White House that makes this feeling super clear. But no one's going to save us but ourselves. here in Greater Portland, and we have that responsibility to work together. We know that SHS is changing lives. It is making a transformational impact. But I think we also are reaching a consensus that there are some things that we can change to accelerate our impact. And so I want to echo the things that I've heard from every single one of you. You know, we need to continue defining our performance metrics. We need to get these data agreements over the finish line. You know, providers in my district, in my county, want stability to continue building a program that they've built from scratch. I know that there are folks from across the entire region that want to see significant progress in unsheltered homelessness, and I know that we want to see that as well. And I just want to add by highlighting that this week is when our 3 counties are doing the point in time count, which there's hundreds of volunteers right now as we speak, working across the entire metro area to survey and to ensure that if someone is homeless, that they're counted in the system. And that to me is a highlight that is important to continue to, again, center the most vulnerable souls that are hurting on our streets. And we need to do that as quickly as possible. So from 2022 to 2023, the last pit count showed a 13% increase in overall homelessness. Despite our best efforts and the efforts from our partners on the ground, we have to continue highlighting that the SHS program, and I think President Peterson, you've done such a great job of telling this story of, in the region, we can control what we can control. And this is what this conversation is about. And we're going to lean into that, but there is also state and federal forces that we really need to address. And so, but for what we can control, let's do the absolute best that we can. And I think more time for our coalition to grow, to answer these questions, is exactly what we need right now. And I'm in full support of taking the time that we need to do this right. So just want to wrap up there and thank Councillor Wong for his comments, and thank every single one of you for the leadership and all the conversations. As Councillor Lewis mentioned, the round robin will not end because thankfully there are so many groups that care deeply about this problem, and we all need to be on the same team about how we get there.
Thank you. Councillor Rosenlaw.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make one other comment that occurs to me, and it's probably mostly out of my ignorance. I hope, and this is either a request or a question, is I hope that the various service providers in the counties will have unanimity of agreement and some standards and guidelines regarding, because they serve populations that are sensitive and in some cases may not have, shall we say, all the documentation that some people think they should have. I hope they have standards for what data they will share and what data they will not share with, let's just say, the new incoming ICE controls and ICE directives. I think we need to be very clear on that, and we need to be very united on that.
We can, I believe HIPAA is going to be a huge part of that in controlling what information. So, yeah. Any other comments at this point? Well, I guess before I engage in the just what I've heard from the councilors about amendments, I just want to also highlight and just get reaction to the coalition's letter did reference mid-April as a goal for them coming together with a proposal. So I would hope that we would get our work in order in the same timeline so that, again, we are ready to go to the ballot in end of April, beginning of May for November. And that would give us time to get to consensus, but also do all the work that we need to do to get ready to go to the ballot. Just looking for head nods. All right, awesome, thank you. So thank you. Y'all moved me to a little bit of a tear because you have been doing a lot of hard work as well, and I'm just proud about where we're at, and that we continue to move this forward in a positive way. So thank you with everybody. With the remaining time we have, I just want to offer up the summary of the themes and concept changes from some of our counselors that reflect much of what we've been hearing from stakeholders. And note that we will have a more substantive conversation amendments to the draft ordinance later once we've been able to incorporate additional changes to the draft ordinance. Councilor Rosenthal, you certainly win the prize for offering the most edits to the draft ordinance. In general, your suggestions emphasize the importance of prioritizing supportive housing services first, while offering the flexibility for partners to work towards acquiring or building more permanently affordable housing when feasible. Second is to bolster the authority of H2PAC and include support structures for committee members to effectively review annual reports and offer critical feedback and recommendations, as well as the suggestions for a change in the title of H2PAC. So thank you. Councillor Simpson, you have suggested stronger language around enforcement and accountability of our partners to meet reporting requirements and accomplish regional KPI goals, which seems consistent with what you just said earlier. Councillor Wong and Gonzalez, you have offered changes that reflect the extensive work of service providers and CBOs engaged on the issue, which you just spoke to, so thank you. Councillor Nolan, you were consistent in your requests for the data and the key performance metrics and goals, so thank you. Councillors, you've done a great job of work gathering leaders from our all across this region, and we continue to do that outreach going forward, and I just want to thank you for your time and effort and sharing of the load with getting out the information and listening. Is there anything else that councilors would want to share at this time on their amendments to the draft ordinance or thoughts on it? No.
Shared a lot.
Yeah, I know. We've been sharing a lot. All right. Yeah, go ahead, Councilor.
Just thanks to everyone that testified today, has testified at all our work sessions. I can't remember the last time we've received this many letters over the last few weeks, just from different partners, and I think that level of engagement is something that we all appreciate, and we hope it continues in this timeline of extension to have folks at the table with us.
Awesome, thank you. Councilor Lewis, sorry.
Sure, thank you. Something that I kind of pointed to in my remarks but haven't offered up as a amendment, because I don't believe it needs to be an amendment, but something that maybe is on the docket for the work group or for us to take leadership on, but actually the tax administration, if we do move forward into the indefinite future, I would like for us to be very serious about talking to the DOR, and thank you, City of Portland, for stepping in, but DOR makes a lot more sense for a number of reasons. And additionally, on an immediate timeline, I think there's some collection, particularly around fees and penalties associated with withholdings that could be corrected immediately, and that would make tax collection run smoother, better, and leave the people we serve happier to pay those taxes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So noted for the work group. Yeah, thanks. Councilor Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank staff for all the work they did in developing the ordinances and the recitals on the ordinances. There's a lot of cross-roughing there. I think you know that. I mean, I'm not going to reference the card game because that would say a name that I don't want to say. But there's a lot of cross-roughing in those references, and it's very complicated, and I just appreciate all the work that they've done, even though I have submitted a rather large number of amendments. That doesn't mean I don't appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we'll keep working on next steps with our partners and stakeholders in the broader community, and stand up this group and get it going, and start checking off some things that we need to get done with our partners to make sure we're on the right path. So again, thank you for everybody who came in to testify today. Thank you to the council for giving some more time to this process, but still keeping the pressure on and the momentum going forward. It's been a tricky conversation, but it has been worth it, and we're almost there. So thank you.
So exhausted.
Oh, exhaustion. You don't even know yet. With that, we'll close that portion of our meeting. Thank you for everybody in attendance, and we will move to Chief Operating Officer Communication, Marisa.
Thank you, Council President Peterson. Good morning, councilors. As you have probably seen, the new federal administration has issued dozens of executive orders that Metro is going to be evaluating for impact on our policies, programs, and operations. I want to name that folks in our Metro community and our community at large are feeling impacted by these orders, whether it's because of challenges to their identity, their legal status, or their chosen professions. This is coming at a time when Metro and other local governments are having challenging budget years, which is creating uncertainty for folks across our organization and the region as well. So I just wanted to take a moment to ask everyone at Metro to give grace and space to each other. We have a powerful and meaningful local mission that we must continue to deliver that is more important now than ever. Let me know, we'll be communicating with you about the impacts, but do let me know if you have any questions or concerns in the meantime.
Thank you. And thank you for acknowledging.
Madam President, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Thanks for that awareness and that initiative. Metro is a unique government, but are we coordinating with organizations like the League of Oregon Cities, the League of Cities, the League of Association of Counties to provide consistent response and resistance to these orders?
So I think, in your staff, you have people who have vast networks and connections, whether it's through government affairs, through formal and informal networks. I'm reaching out to colleagues that I have relationships with to understand how they're responding. Everybody is reading the same things and asking the same questions in local government because there are implications to our policies, potential implications to our funding, and in addition to kind of personal impacts that people may be experiencing. So I think there is communication and the potential for coordination should the council, a lot of these questions that I think will come up will be policy questions that council needs to answer about how we want to respond. And so we'll be trying to kind of triage and tee those up for you.
And I would just ask that we, as we move forward in this space, that we carefully consider how we have conversations, because we could do more harm if we jump to conclusions or misrepresent somehow the impact. So I think we need to be very thoughtful about how we move forward in declaring any sort of proposals. Not that I don't want to have those conversations eventually. I just want to make sure that we know how to portray them without causing any further damage.
Madam President, those are wise words, wise advice. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I feel this very personally, and I will go on the record that I would support Metro not selling our values for a federal grant.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. Thank you for that. All right, Councilor Communication. Any updates? Councilor Rosenthal, Simpson, and then Gonzalez.
Well, I was just going to comment that it would be good, since I haven't read all of the 200 or so executive orders, to have someone on our staff list or identify the priority ones that might affect us in some way or another, without getting into the weeds. I agree with Councilor Nolan and President Peterson. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, and we want to be wise, but we also want to be aware. To me, it strikes as though there is an effort to rule and not govern, and we have to be very
our work for the region.
Thank you. It's going to get a lot worse. Councilor Simpson.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to report back a couple of things. started my round robin, like Councilor Lewis did this week with the city of Gresham and talking SHS with our government affairs director, Andy Shaw. I would say a better reception than earlier round robins. It was not as spicy as I've heard about the 90-minute grillings that happened in the other parts of the region. But it was the things that the key highlights of it is, one, Multnomah County has to show up as a better partner in Gresham and work in hand with that city. Two, again, enforcement, accountability, and governance, and making sure that those funds are spent efficiently and effectively. And then I want to report back. Yesterday was a GPI board meeting. We are looking good. Jobs were added to the region again. I think around 690 over the last quarter, which is healthy, and a lot of work moving forward with the Do More with Our Land campaign that GPI has pushed forward from last year. So some more to come there from that body as they continue to push forward in recruiting and maintaining industry here in the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gonzalez and then Lewis.
Yeah, just real quick, since we were talking about the new administration, that Councilor Rosenthal and I are working on a resolution with staff around some key items, acknowledging the history of the use of one of our venues and how some of these orders in the last 100 years have been used to create tremendous harm that we're still reeling from in this community. So we look forward to bringing that to you in a strong statement of values about that pairs what Marisa shared from a council perspective, and that will come. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other things that I feel as an individual, as a member of a community that is being targeted with some horrendous policies. And so yeah, just want to say that I know a lot of folks are scared right now, and appreciate. I know that you are all allies, and that we're going to work together to defend our communities. But I think we're in for a ride these next 4 years, and appreciate your leadership and standing alongside the different comunidades that need our elected leaders to uphold our values in these times. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilor Lewis.
Sure, thank you. Two things. First, along the lines of what we can do locally. Obviously, there's the one-on-one care that we can exhibit towards our communities and towards, in particular, our Metro staff and Metro family. We have probably one of the better lines of communication in terms of trustworthiness that folks will be hearing from, and I would urge us to over communicate and not under communicate. I was really impressed actually with what PPS did in terms of getting some word out earlier this week very quickly by text message and email. And I don't know how much we use text. I know we use email quite nicely, but in big scary times, getting things into people's phones might be worth considering. But my hope is that we take care of each other, and Metro is a really big region, right? Like we're not gonna reach everybody in the face-to-face context, so how we communicate with the written word matters. But the report that I wanted to bring forward was that the Center for Civic Leaders hosted a conversation titled "What Will It Be Like to Be a Child in Portland in 25 Years?" I was able to attend for most of it, and we had Metro staff there. And I think we need to bring some of those learnings and key points into our Future Visions conversation, because we absolutely have to be thinking not only about the future of the region, but the future of what adolescence and formative years is like here.
Nicely said. Thank you.
Can I add?
Yeah.
an article to add to that. An article just came out, and per capita, the city of Gresham has more kids in it and families
0 to 5s.
0 to 5s than anywhere in the nation.
Anywhere in the nation?
Yes, anywhere in the nation. As accumulated by Chico car seat manufacturer.
Is it the Gorge Winds?
It's the nice living out
The
there.
gorge.
Let me tell you, don't come trying to move to
All right.
District 1 now.
I don't think it's a nice living. I think it's your apartments. Yes.
It's those ice storms.
Well, there's Oxbow and Blue Lake. There's just so
Yeah,
many
there's so
great,
many,
great places for folks to meet and
High quality living. All right.
date spots.
Good leadership.
Good leadership. There you go. Anything else to add for the good of the order? Seeing no hands raised, thank you. We are adjourned. I see you at our next regular scheduled meeting, Tuesday, January 28th at 10:30 a.m. Thank you.